In your essays and in your novels, you've tackled the issue of Native Americans, Native American identity, and the way Native Americans are perceived in the United States. And I believe you think that people in the US have a sort of romantic vision of Native Americans. Is that right?
I think people worldwide have a fairly romantic notion about American Indians. Mm-hmm. In some ways, we're the most visible, invisible minority in the United States. We make up 1% of the population, which is a very small amount, but we occupy vast tracts of the American imagination. I mean, America set itself apart from Europe in many ways by evoking our presence in everything from the Boston Tea Party to the Declaration of Independence to Custer's defeat at the Little Bighorn. We have been part of America's myth-making about itself. And so we function largely as part of a myth, but we're not understood as being part of the American reality. And so I suppose in some ways that's what my writing does. Mm-hmm. Try to remind people that we, not only do we exist, but we exist in ways that defy the imagination.
And is this myth related to fiction, to films, to books?
All of them.
Yeah.
All of the above. It's a strange feeling. You know, I don't know. I imagine some people can appreciate it, but it's a strange feeling to be a modern person. You know, to have modern concerns, to be an Indian person as well, and to go around the country, to go around the world, almost as though you're in disguise, mm-hmm. because we might not look the way people want us to look or imagine we look. We might not act the way that people want us to act. They might have the most foolish notions about our religion, our culture, our languages, and what all of those things mean. And so it's like you pass through society unrecognized and unappreciated, as though you have no standing as a modern, real American Indian, unless you closely resemble these romantic ideas that people have. And when you deviate from those ideas in your life, I've had people say to me, well, you know, you're not really Indian, or all the real Indians died out a long time ago, and it's infuriating.
Is that related to the system of the reservations? Because after all, it contains the real culture, isn't it?
No. In fact, that's not the case. I mean, half of all American Indians don't live on reservations. They live in cities or in the countryside or in suburbs or everywhere else that other American people live. Less than half of our population is born and raised and stays on reservations. Reservations are like small countries inside of the larger country of America. You know, we're free to travel, we're free to live, we're free to work, we're free to do whatever we like to do. But even when people live on reservations who aren't themselves Indian, which is often the case, they too don't recognize us for what we are. Mm. So it's not that we're hidden on reservations away from the public gaze. There's just a problem with the public gaze. And so my job as a writer, among other things, you know, to entertain, to entice, to please, to bring pleasure. These are things that writers do. But in addition to those things, my job is to change how people see the world. I mean, that's part of the job.
Mm-hmm. And I think you also defend the upkeeping, the use of Indian languages.
Yeah, I mean
is that important to the
sure
progression of the culture?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Defense?
I mean, imagine being French, but you don't have the language. Mm-hmm. How are you still French? Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, as soon as you lose a language, you might have an ethnicity, but you no longer have a culture. Mm-hmm. I think it's just my view. Mm-hmm. So if your ancestors are from France, and you might even live near France, but you don't speak French, it'd be hard to say, well, I'm a French person. You might say, you know, I come from French people, but I'm not myself French. As soon as you lose your native languages, as soon as those languages die out, it's hard to say that we are native people, that we're Indian people. in that case, we're no longer a culture, we're an ethnicity. We say we're descended from the Indian. But, and therefore, you know, if that's the case, then our political power is weakened, our influence is weakened, our standing, our ability to make sure that the government of the United States honors the treaties that itself signed. All those efforts, those real world efforts to improve our lives are made more difficult if we lose our language. And so too, you know, we lose our sense of who we are. And that's important.